Greetings everyone. Today we're going to be discussing on a tutorial of how to fill out the W-9. It's been revised as of March 2024, so this is a new version of the particular document. It is similar to the old versions, but this is the newest one, and we're going to do another video and tutorial discussing in a little further detail of how to fill this out when your employer or really anyone who wants to know how to fill out a W-9 can use this video, but for the purposes of this video, it's mainly to assist our real estate associates and agents on how to fill it out, and it doesn't have to be with members of our brokerage. Any real estate agent or associate, at least in the state of Florida, I can't speak for other states. You could use this on how to fill it out to give to your broker in order to receive your money, your compensation. If you closed a deal, did a sale, did a rental, and they're asking you for a W-9. Your real estate broker is asking for a W-9. This is how you'd fill it out as a real estate agent. I'm going to get into a little bit further detail of entities if you do operate as an entity as a real estate agent, but we'll talk more about that when we start drafting the tutorial. Before we begin, just a quick second to say that our company is NIS Realty Inc. We are licensed in the state of Florida as a real estate brokerage. We pay all of our agents 100% of their real estate commission. More information about that and how it works can be found on our website, nisrealty.com, or you can see the description in the bottom of the video here. And feel free to contact us for a free confidential consultation if you are interested about our company and a real estate agent licensed in the state of Florida. But enough about that. Let's get straight into the video in this tutorial because that's probably why you're here. So, the W-9, it's a fairly simple document to fill out. It's multiple pages, but you really only fill out the first page. The second, third, and fourth and fifth page, it's you could read through it, but there's nothing for you to fill out here. So we're going to go straight to the first page and start drafting it. Now, if you're a real estate agent or real estate associate, you fill it out exactly how your name is registered with the state. In the state of Florida, we have what's called the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, also known as the DBPR, and that's how I'm going to refer to moving along with this video, the DBPR. And that's the they regulate all of the professional licenses in the state of Florida, including real estate licenses. So that's where your name would be registered for your real estate license, with the DBPR, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. Now, let's say your name is John Doe. If your name is registered with the DBPR as John Doe, then that's how you'd write it here on the W-9 for this section 1 up here. It's the name of the entity or individual. Most real estate agents, when they start off in the real estate industry, they usually operate as a sole proprietor or as an individual, operating through their legal name that's registered with the DBPR. Now, you need to put your name here exactly as it's registered with the DBPR. If your name is John Doe, just first and last name, that's how you'd write it here. But let's say your name is, you have a middle name, John Billy Doe, and that's how you have it registered with the DBPR, then that's exactly how you'll write this W-9. You put your full legal name as registered with the DBPR. If you have a middle name, in this case if it's John Billy Doe, that's how you'll write it, John Billy Doe, exactly how it's registered with the DBPR. Simple enough, you just put your name there. Now, another thing I'm going to discuss real quick, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is creating an entity. Now, in the state of Florida, I can't speak on behalf of other states, but in the state of Florida, you don't have to operate as an individual or a sole proprietor. It's highly recommended if you're doing multiple transactions, at least in my professional opinion, I recommend it, that you create an entity for liability purposes, tax purposes, and a multitude of other purposes. I'm not going to get into really the details of that, but you can register as, in the state of Florida, as a PA, an LLC, a PL, or a PLLC. Now, let's say your name is John Billy Doe and you want to create an entity so that you're operating through your entity. You can't create a separate name. It has to be in your legal name as registered with the DBPR. So for instance, if it's John Billy Doe, you could create John Billy Doe PA and create that entity. You could also take the name, let me just copy this here so it's easier. You could write John Billy Doe LLC, and it could be that. Or you could do John Billy Doe PL, I believe it is, or you could do a PLLC. Let's put a space here. So if that's your legal name registered to DBPR, that's how it needs to appear in the in the DBPR, if you register an entity, it needs to be your full legal name, and then you could create the entity PA, LLC, PLLC. The more common ones that I see is either a PA or an LLC. But sometimes, a PLLC or the PL is, depending on what your needs, I would recommend consulting a tax professional or an attorney if you want to figure out which entity best serves your purpose. So you can inquire with another professional to see which entity is best for you, but this is how it would register. What you can't do is, I'm going to write on the line number 2 down here, is if your name is John Billy Doe, you can't write something like another name, like another company name that's not related to your full legal name. So you can't write like John like services PA. You can't write that, because now it's confusing the public, thinking that you're a separate entity or a broker or a brokerage, which if you're a sales associate or a real estate agent, you can't be doing that. That's the one thing and the reason why it has to be in your full legal name, because you can't, as a real estate licensee, you have more knowledge and understanding in the real estate industry than the average public or individual. And doing this is confusing to the public and makes it misleads them to believe that you're a separate entity and you're not working for your brokerage. So you can't do that. What you have to do is it has to be in your full legal name. If your name is just John Doe, first and last name, it would be John Doe, PA. If you have a middle name, John Billy Doe, PA, John Billy Doe, LLC, that's how you would write it. Let me separate these so it looks a little bit easier to understand. But these are the entities that are acceptable by the DBPR in the state of Florida as a real estate sales associate for you to create. You could create a PA, LLC, a PL, or a PLLC. And if you want to find out which one better serves your purposes, I'd recommend consulting an accountant or an attorney to discuss which one would be best for you. But if you are doing multiple real estate transactions a year, I highly recommend creating an entity like this and not operating just as a sole proprietor. So just keep in mind, the simple thing is it needs to be your full legal name as registered with the DBPR, and then the entity as created, the PA or the LLC. That's the only way it's acceptable in the state of Florida with the DBPR. It has to be your full legal name. The line 2 here, I'm not going to go into this really too much because as a real estate agent, you're just going to be operating in your full legal name. And if it's an entity, like we wrote up here, PA or LLC, let's actually put this here just to create the separate for all of them. So you have just the regular sole proprietor, individual, and then the 4 entities that are acceptable. Line 2 is if you're like a DBA, which stands for doing business as. So you might see a company's name is, let's say our company, Niz Realty Inc., and then you want to register it as something else like Billy's Real Estate Services. The DBA could be whatever it wants. So that's I'm not going to go too into detail of that, but a DBA is just a name that the business is doing as. It may have its main name, but then they have a DBA name for like advertising purposes or something else related. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to fill this out, but just a brief touch up on that. That's what that line is for, is if you have a DBA. Now, if you have checkbox 3A here. So if you're an individual or sole proprietor, which if you're in this case here, you're just operating as John Billy Doe, you don't have an entity, you'd click this right here as an individual sole proprietor, as we spoke about. And that's it as far as the type of entity. Now, if you have one of these other entities like the PA, the LLC, you want to consult your tax professional. I'm not going to get too into that, whether your entity classifies as an S corporation, or something else. Most of the time, as a real estate agent, it's not going to be a C corporation or a partnership or a trust or an estate. It probably won't even be an LLC, but speak to your accountant or attorney about that. I'm just going to click individual sole proprietor because that's the case in most situations. But speak to your professional to see what type of classification your entity, if you create a PA or an LLC or a PLLC, how the entity classifies as for its tax classification. For now, I'm just going to put individual sole proprietor, and that's it as far as filling this out. We're almost done pretty much. The last couple of things here is the address and city and state down here. So you just write your full address here, and it needs to be the full address. If there's unit numbers, you need to write it. So let's just write our 123 Happy Street. If there's a unit number, write the unit number. So unit 45, let's say, and then the city, you have to write the full city, the state, and the zip code. Do not leave any of this out. You can't leave, if there's a unit number, you can't leave the unit number out. You can't leave the any part of the address out. It needs to be the full property address. So don't leave the city out, don't leave the state out, because you think you know the city classifies where it's located good enough. It's not acceptable. You have to put the full street address with the unit number if there is, or apartment number, or suite number, and then you put the city, state, and zip code. I know it sounds silly, but I see it all the time. People make this mistake, and it's unacceptable. The full property address is required. Now, enough of that. We're going to go on to the last part of this video here, is you write your social security number here. If you're operating as an individual with just your full legal name as a sole proprietor, you'd write your social security number here. And you type it in, whatever it is. Whatever your social security number is, you type it in here. I don't think I need to explain that any further, but that's where you put it as far as your social security number if you're an individual sole proprietor. Now, the next thing I'm going to get into, and this is another benefit of creating one of those entities that I was recommending. Let me just delete this here. Is if you create a PA, or you create a, let's say, an LLC or a PLLC, you would use your EIN, which stands for Employer Identification Number. So you don't have to use your social security number anymore, which I recommend because, in my opinion, I don't really want to be giving out my social security number, whether it's my broker or anyone else. I prefer to not give that number out as little as I have to. That's a very sensitive and important number that you don't want to disclose to. You want to disclose it to as few people as possible, in my opinion. That's just my professional opinion. But if you have, let's say, PA, you'll get an EIN number, an Employer Identification Number, and that number is completely separate. In the state of Florida, it's listed with, on the SunBiz website with the Division of Corporations, so it's kind of public records. And you would just put that number there instead because you're operating as an entity for your LLC, let's say. So you use your EIN number. You don't have to give your social security number because you're doing business through your entity. And that's one of the benefits of operating through an entity like an LLC or a PA, is that you could use your EIN number. So that's where you'd put that number here if you're doing that. You don't need to put your social security number if and only if you're operating as an entity like a PA or an LLC. If you're just operating as your full legal name as a sole proprietor, you're going to have to use your social security number if your broker requests a W-9. And that's it. Down here, you just sign it and you date it. And that's how you fill out the W-9. Once again, this video is mainly catered toward real estate agents in the state of Florida. Anyone who wants a tutorial for a W-9, you can use this this video to help draft it. But if you're operating as something different like an entity or another type of business, non-real estate related, I don't really get into the details of that, especially for the federal tax classification in Section 3A here. But for real estate agents, whether you're a part of our brokerage or if you're part of another brokerage and just need a tutorial, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, I'd really appreciate if you like the video, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel. Just let me know if you liked it or if you feel there's points that I can improve on or anything else, or if there's something else you'd like to see in our video for me to post and go over. I'd be happy to make another video to help anyone out there in the real estate industry. It really means a lot when everyone reaches out and puts in the comments that they appreciate this tutorial, they appreciate the video. Lets me know I guess I'm doing the right thing and I'm being helpful, which is the whole purpose of making these videos for members of our brokerage and anyone else who comes and visits the channel. So yeah, it was a pleasure speaking with you all again, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.